It's a really, really exciting time right now. You can pretty much build anything you can imagine, and it's only getting better and easier.
Anyone who has a company who has engineers right now, you're like really missing out if you're not paying for like O1 Pro for your engineering team and having them use something like Repo Prompt.
That's wild. That's crazy to me.
Sam Altman like tweeted that they're losing money on O1 Pro. It's people.
Yeah,
people like me.
You're the problem.
I mean, that's one reason we started the podcast, right? Like, I think most people don't realize like this is society changing stuff.
Hey, welcome to the Next Wave podcast. I'm Matt Wolf. I'm here with Nathan Lands. And today we want to dive deep into what ChatGPT's O1 models are capable of. We believe that a lot of people really misunderstand what they're actually capable of, and most people are probably using O1 wrong. And in this episode, I think we might actually blow your mind with what they can do. I'm going to show you some simple workflows that I use to actually create short form content from my long form content using O1. But then Nathan, he's going to break down his flow for actually building a game, and he's going to give you a little sneak peek at the game that he's showing you. And, you know, stick with him when we get to it, because it does take a couple minutes to understand it. But once you have that aha moment, which you're going to have that aha moment when he's showing it to you, you're going to have your mind blown by what O1 Pro is capable of. And Nathan's game is looking killer, and you're going to see what I'm talking about if you're watching this one on video. So stick around for this one. We're going to dive in and show you what O1 from OpenAI is really capable of.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's the first model where like there's a major disconnect between like how good the model is and how people perceive it to be. Like they think it's just like a slower version of a chatbot or something. They're like, why? You know, how is this an upgrade? And so I think there's a major disconnect, and it feels like it's also the first time there's a model where people are kind of the limit. Like, yeah. And your knowledge that you bring to the table when you use it are kind of a limit, right? Like, because like if you don't know how to properly use the tool, the results you'll get back will be bad, and you know, it takes several minutes to get the response back, and it's a horrible experience. You're like, I waited for a few minutes, and you give me some crap back. Why am I ever going to use that again? And so apparently, a lot of people have like tried that one time and just never used it again. The people who like figure out how to actually properly use it are like kind of blown away by what you can do with it.
Yeah. And in a few minutes here, we'll actually dig in a little bit and show off exactly how we're using it. But you know, that's totally right. Like I use regular ChatGPT, and I'll dump like a transcript from a video in with the timestamps in it and tell it to find me like clips from that video. And with regular ChatGPT, it'll find like moments from the transcripts, but the timestamps will be like way off. Like it can't seem to like line up the timestamp with what that clip it was that found. Right. When I do it with O1 does its like double checking, triple checking, and you know, that's kind of what it's doing when it's doing all of this processing, and it's taking so much longer. It's basically prompting behind the scenes, getting a response, and then double, triple, quadruple checking and sort of reevaluating its response over and over and over again before it finally goes, okay, we think we got this right. Here's our response.
Well, we think that's what's going on. I mean, like OpenAI has been not being entirely transparent about what's going on. They're kind of alluding to them having some kind of other secret sauce, but yeah, that's probably the majority of what's going on. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the key is, and we'll show later, like giving these models the proper context. With like Claude or any of the other like just regular chat models, you know, the LLMs, you can just kind of go back and forth. You can just like ask it a simple question, it instantly responds back, and you just kind of go back and forth. But with like O1 or O1 Pro, you know, you can throw so much context at them. You can copy and paste in, you know, page like 10 pages, 100 pages, maybe even 1,000. Yeah. I'm not sure the exact. It's like,
do you know what the token limit is on O1?
O1 Pro, I believe, is 125.
Okay, 125,000.
125, but people who've tested it have said that kind of stick to like 50 to 75K. Like there's seems to be some kind of thing. It's like almost like a RAM back in the day or memory. Like, yeah, you can hold that much, but don't like fill it up.
Well, according to Perplexity here, I actually did a quick search on it. According to Perplexity, the O1 model is a 200,000 token context window with a maximum output token window of 100,000. So you could put up to, that's about 75,000 words into like a single prompt.
The results you get, like at least with coding, that you get from like sharing it that much context versus just like asking it a question, it's like a night and day difference. And I found the same thing with writing. And I've heard other people sharing examples too that they've tried O1 for writing, and they're like, oh, this kind of sucks, or maybe it's slightly better than Claude, or like it's like about the same as Claude. But actually like with O1 Pro, if you give it tons of examples of like, here's good writing. here's a good newsletter, or here's my best newsletter issues and some people who write newsletters I really respect and wish I could be like. If you do that, like the stuff it gives you back, even just like for like editing, is so good. And actually, before O1 Pro, I almost never used AI for my newsletter at all. And so I've been using Whisperflow. And basically where I can just like press a button and just talk to the computer, and then it just uses AI to transcribe what I said.
I think wasn't that the one that Riley was talking about on that episode we did with Riley? I think he might have brought that up and said he was actually using that to code with.
I believe so. I'm sure I've learned so many things from this show, like subconsciously. Like later I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna try that out. I don't know why I'm trying it out, but I am.
Well, I also have to subtly slip that in so people go, oh, they did an episode with Riley Brown. I gotta go listen to that one.
But I've been using it that way, and lately for my newsletter, I will use Whisperflow and just talk to it, and and I'll talk for like 5 to 10 minutes about whatever I want my newsletter to be about for that day, and then I'll like hand it off to O1 Pro, and I gave O1 Pro, I'm copying in examples of my favorite, my best newsletter issues, but also newsletters that I like and things I don't like. And then it's doing an incredible job at editing what I said to make it like really presentable and professional. And the previous models were nowhere near that caliber.
Well, and I think what you're saying too is like getting to the root of like why we mentioned that most people are probably using O1 wrong. Like the regular ChatGPT, the GPT-4o, it's designed to be conversational, right? It's designed for you to ask it a 1 or 2 sentence question. It gives you a response. You give a follow-up question, and it's designed to do that sort of back and forth, and you get into this long conversation, and it sort of ideally remembers the context of the previous conversation. O1 models, on the other hand, are not really designed to do that. O1 models are really kind of designed to dump as much information as you can into that very first prompt. Like you mentioned, right? Dump in the newsletters you like, dump in your own newsletters, dump in maybe the information that you want included in the newsletter that it's about to write for you, and give it all of that information, all of that context from the very first prompt, hit submit, and then let it go to town doing its processing, right? Let it spend 10 minutes, 15 minutes, however long it takes, processing all of that information, and then it's going to give you a nice detailed output with all of that information. If you try to use it to like chat and be conversational with it, ask it a 1-sentence question and then wait for a reply, ask it a follow-up question, you're going to hate it, right? Because it's going to take forever with each question.
A lot of people have noticed too that it seems like it's really great at like one-shotting things, like in terms of you want to give that huge context right up front. And often after that, you're kind of done with the conversation. You kind of like, when you want to use it again, you open a new, O1 Pro chat.
Right.
Right. Like I like you can kind of continue, but I found like it, the more and more you throw at it, like eventually it kind of gets more confused. And like the first one, if you just give it tons of context, it's able to reason about all of it and give you a great response. And I think most people don't realize that. Like you said, they're waiting for several minutes and they're like, okay, that kind of sucks. Let me talk to it some more. And then they wait more and just it never goes anywhere.
I think you pulled up some tweets about some of the interesting ways that some like scientists and things like that are using O1. So let's maybe talk about those real quick first, and then we'll show them some of the ways that you and I have actually been playing around with it.
Yeah. So here's this is something I've been noticing too, like online. Is there's a huge disconnect between like the people who are just trying to chat with O1 Pro and the people who are like trying to like solve really hard problems, with it. For example, here's this doctor on X who's been sharing really great stuff, and he's talking about how, he thinks people don't realize how good this model is. Like they've been using it to help create an incredibly complex composite biological framework, which, there's a lot of technical stuff in here, but it sounds like basically this is something that's actually helping them to identify target drugs that you could create, and even getting them good information about how to possibly create the drugs, how to run tests on them, things that before you would need a whole staff of people to help you do. And he's saying that now, instead of having that staff, he's basically able to do it himself, which means, if you gave this kind of technology to every doctor, like how fast we discover new drugs, it's going to go up dramatically. I think it's not a surprise that you're seeing it more in like complicated areas like, engineering, the medical field, things like that. You're noticing that like people in those fields are understanding how good these models are because their needs are more than like the average person who's asking you like, I'm shopping for this or whatever,
Right. Look, if you're curious about custom GPTs or are a pro that's looking to up your game, listen up. I've actually built custom GPTs that help me do the research and planning for my YouTube videos, and building my own custom GPTs has truly given me a huge advantage. Well, I want to do the same for you. HubSpot has just dropped a full guide on how you can create your own custom GPT. And they've taken the guesswork out of it. We've included templates and a step-by-step guide to design and implement custom models so you can focus on the best part, actually building it. If you want it, you can get it at the link in the description below. Now back to the show.
Here's another tweet from Didi, who's a venture capitalist at Mineral Ventures, a really well-known Silicon Valley venture fund. And he's saying that based on the data that already AI, like O1, like reasoning models are doing better than doctors on solving hard to diagnose diseases. So as of right now, and I think the numbers was 80% versus 30%.
What do those numbers mean?
Like hard to diagnose diseases that when you were testing a doctor, if the doctor could diagnose the disease, the doctors got it right 30% of the time.
Wow.
The AI got it right 80% of the time. And this is not the new models. This is the very first preview of O1. And from a lot of stuff I've seen, O1 Pro is probably in the ballpark of 3 times smarter than that model. So probably when the new data comes out, it's going to be like, okay, it's not 80%, like it's 95% or 90%, and the doctors are 30%. It's a huge difference. I mean, so this just shows, I mean, that's one reason we started the podcast, right? Like, I think most people don't realize, like, this is society changing stuff. Like, this should be where we restructure society where, yeah, you still need doctors, but you have doctors who are highly relying on AI to help diagnose diseases.
Ideally, you have the doctors that sort of understand all of the different diseases and the ways to cure them and things like that. But, you know, maybe they're not always the best at actually diagnosing what the disease is, but they're the best at probably telling you how to like handle and you know, work with you on the treatment of it. So I think we're going to get to a point, and I know I'm probably already going to start doing this, where if I have like a checkup or a doctor's appointment or like something's bothering me and I'm going to go to the doctor, I'm going to put all of my symptoms into something like O1 and basically see if O1 can tell me what it thinks is the problem first, but then go and use that information and bring it to a doctor. I've been hearing stories lately about people who basically get to like the root problem of their various ailments by using O1 and then going to the doctor, and the doctor is essentially confirming it for them and then helping them with a course of treatment. So it's not like eliminating doctors. It's just sort of, all right, let's get an opinion here and let's get a second opinion from a real doctor. And then let's sort of overlap the two to figure out the best course of action. And I really think that's probably going to be the smartest way for people moving forward. And I think it's going to get to a point where like any doctors that refuse to also leverage AI to sort of help with some of the diagnosis and stuff, it's like, that's borderline like going to be unethical to not sort of get a second opinion from AI, or at least, or, you know, get a first opinion from AI and then have a doctor confirm the opinion, right?
Right.
I think the best thing we should do now is, you know, you talked about using it for your newsletter. You've talked about using it for coding. I've talked about using it for doing shorts for some of my videos. So I think we can jump into one of those. I actually have ChatGPT O1 Pro running right now in the background because I knew it was going to take a while to like process the transcript. So what I'm going to do right now is I'll go ahead and jump in and we'll run this through ChatGPT O1, see what kind of clips it finds for us, and then we can compare it with what O1 Pro gave us and see if we can spot any differences. Because I think this whole strategy of letting it find viral clips for us, I don't necessarily think you're going to need the pro mode. I bet you the regular O1 will probably do it just as good. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. So if you are listening on audio, you can check out the YouTube version of this and actually see it in action. So I've got ChatGPT O1 open, and here's one of our recent YouTube episodes, AI predictions that will completely change life in 2025. And if I go down to the bottom of the description here on YouTube, there's actually a button that says show transcript. So what I like to do, and I do this on a lot of the live streams that I do on my YouTube channel, is once the live stream's over, I go and click the show transcript button, and it puts these transcripts over on the right side of your YouTube window. So we've got the entire transcript of this recent podcast episode that we did. And I'm going to go ahead and just select it all, including the timestamps. You can see I'm selecting the actual times as well as the transcripts, because OpenAI O1 is going to need those times as well to know, you know, where to tell us to pull those clips from. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this whole thing here, and then I'm going to jump into O1, and I'm just going to paste this whole thing into O1. So you can see I've got the entire transcript loaded in here right now. And if I just kind of add a couple lines, let me get all the way up to the top of our transcript here. And I'm going to add a couple lines here. And I'm going to say, below is the transcript from a recent podcast episode. Please review it and find clips that have the potential to go viral. Clips should be roughly 60 seconds and make for good short form video, right? So I'm just giving it this like little prompt up here, and then I'm pasting in the entire transcript, and I'll go ahead and submit it. And you can see it's gonna take a minute or so to like process this whole thing. So I'll scroll down. You can see it's thinking right now. So it actually responded in less than a minute. So this is regular O1, and it's responding, but I forgot to give it a little extra context here. I forgot to tell it to tell me the actual timestamps. So you can see right here, it's giving us the clips. Is O3 actually AGI? And then it actually gives me the little transcript section. But what I would typically do is, let me actually start over real quick. I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste the entire original prompt, and I'm going to do it one more time because I want to tell it to actually give me the timestamps. That just makes life easier. I kind of forgot to put that in. So let's go ahead and copy all of this. I'm going to create a new chat here, paste the same thing in here, and then at the end of this prompt say, give me the timestamps for each clip. And then we'll go ahead and run this one more time.
Yeah, you gotta give it the right context. It's kind of like I think of like in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where it's like, what's the meaning of life? And it comes back, how many years was it later? 1,000 years or whatever it was. And it's 42. It's like, okay, you got to give it the right context and like tell it what you expect to get back.
So O1 is actually quite a bit faster than O1 Pro. That's definitely something I'm noticing, just kind of comparing them side by side, because I actually ran O1 Pro while you were talking earlier just to like let it start going. This one takes, maybe you can see here, it thought for 38 seconds, and now it's actually giving me the timestamps. So we got clip 1 is from 0 to 1 minute. 2025 will be wild for AI plus O3 IQ levels. And then you can see it actually kind of gave us a little transcript of this section it's telling us to clip. Next one is 1 minute and 2 seconds to 2 minutes and 2 seconds. This one actually feels like it's kind of going very linear, where it's taking like the first handful of minutes and giving us those clips. So you can see clip 3 is from 3 minutes to 4 minutes. Basic AGI might be here already, and then it gives us a transcript. But you can see it gave us a handful of clips here. And then the final one is from 2759 to 2859, the rise of AI email agents for everyone. So these are all potential short form clips that we can clip out and then use as YouTube shorts. And this was using the basic O1. And again, let's take a look at the time. You can see it thought about it for 38 seconds. So actually pretty quick, but also it's kind of weird that the very first clip starts at 0 seconds and goes to 1 minute. Like that's our intro, basically.
I think there's probably something there where we could give it even more context of like what's a good clip, and and what we and like rank order them too. Don't just give us like in a sequential order. Like tell us like what are the top 5 viral clips from this episode.
That's actually usually my follow-up prompt to this, is like give me an order of like which one is most likely to least likely go viral. But now if we look over here, so I ran this same thing through the O1 Pro model, and this time I definitely did tell it to give me the timestamps the first time around. But if I scroll down, let's see if it tells me how long it thought for. So this one thought for 5 minutes and 20 seconds. So, about 10 times as long as the last one. But you can see here, it's the timestamps are a little bit more dialed in. So 55 seconds to 155. Is O3 already AGI? From 322 to 422, AGI agents and societal shifts by 2025. 516 to 616, AI video is about to get wild. It's actually kind of suggesting a lot of the same exact clips that O1 regular gave us. It just seems a little bit more accurate on its timestamps. Right. O3's IQ is near Einstein levels. So, and then look, we see one much, much deeper in the podcast than what the regular O1 gave us, which is from 4555 to 4655, one-person startups and multimodal mastery. That's kind of hard to say. But that's how I've been using it. And I've been plugging, this was only a 49-minute podcast episode. I've been plugging in transcripts from 3-hour live streams, and it's been finding clips throughout the entire live stream. Like it's finding clips at 2 hours and 20 minutes in, and clips at, 2 hours and 48 minutes and 37 seconds, and another clip at, 3 minutes in, and just kind of all over the podcast. But you're right, a probably better prompt to use in the future would tell it right up front, find these timestamps, and then give me a rank order of the one most likely to go viral, and just put that in the first prompt. I've actually been doing it as a follow-up, but I think you've got a good point. It's probably going to actually work better if you just include that in the original prompt.
I believe so, because it definitely does with coding. So I assume that probably applies to everything. It is interesting. Like as of a year ago, I definitely was on the side of like, oh, don't learn about prompting. It's not important. Like these models are just going to handle all that for you. And even OpenAI has kind of said that they think that'll be the case eventually. Right. But it's like, as of right now, we've kind of went to where even the prompt is even more important than it was before.
Well, I think it depends on the use case, right? Like I think for like 95% of your use cases for AI, you don't have to stress too much about the prompt, right? Like if you're using Perplexity to get some quick information, or you're asking ChatGPT about like, one of the things I've used ChatGPT and Claude and things like that for are like, I'm on this medication, I'm thinking about, taking this supplement. Are there any like interactions between the two? I don't really need to write up a complex prompt. It's going to get what I'm asking for, right? So for the most part, I would say like 95% of the time, like prompt engineering or getting crazy with your prompts is not that necessary. But when you're asking it, like the higher the level of complexity of what you're asking for, the more it's necessary to be more detailed in your prompt, I think.
There is this thing I'm using called repo prompt, but basically what it does is, before when I was working on any kind of coding project, like if you want to use O1 Pro, the only way you can get the context for your project is to literally copy and paste everything into it. And so what this does is like, you can see here, I've got all these different files here, tons of files, different directories, all the files inside the directories, and it lists them all here and tells you how much context it's currently taken up, how many context tokens. So you kind of know, right now it's at 51.9 thousand right now. That's
so for anybody listening, it's like there's on the screen, there's like a left side that's got like a folder structure, and that's like the folder structure of, is that like your entire computer, or is that like just this software?
That's a game I'm working on. But you know, the interesting thing is, even though they're calling it repo prompt, you totally could use this for other things. Like you could use this for writing or for whatever use case, and just have files with text in them that you want to copy and paste every time.
So if you were trying to like write a book or something, right, you can probably have different folders for like each chapter of your book, and then it can like help understand the context of previous chapters you've already written in the book as well, right?
Yeah, totally. Or you could have that, plus you could have a thing on like style. If you're a writer, like what's the favorite things you've written before? Or like what are the things you like writing? You can provide all that context as well to make O1 Pro to give you a better response back.
So let me clarify something. So when you were mentioning earlier, when you said that you use this for your newsletter, and when you're doing the newsletters, you might have like a folder that's like, here's the style of newsletters that I really like, and those might be text files within a folder called like newsletters I like or something, right? And then like you might have another folder that's like my newsletter, and then it has a whole bunch of entries in it of your newsletter. And so now when you go to prompt O1 Pro, it can actually look at all of that, and it's in a sort of a nice, clean, structured way, right?
Yeah, with notes, like kind of in the text itself, like saying, here's things I like, here's things I don't like, and usually more detailed than that, but I'm like kind of simplifying it.
Oh, wait, so real quick. So the repo prompt, it doesn't actually do the prompting for you. You have to like copy and paste something from repo prompt into ChatGPT.
Yeah. It's you're just copying a massive amount of data.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like tapped into ChatGPT and like submitting prompts. Okay.
No, but let me show you though why it's so good for coding. Before, when I would give O1 Pro something for code, what I was doing was I was creating a script that would look at my entire code base, and I would run the script, just a simple Node script, and it would take all the code and then put it into a single text file, and then like put like, here's where this file is, just so the model knew where everything was, so it could help, if it was pointing to a file or whatever. But with XML, it's basically giving it to you in a format where then you can just apply it to your code base, and it'll automatically change everything for you, which is incredible. Like it's so much faster coding with this now. But let me show you the other stuff that's cooler too, that I think is not well explained when you use this tool. Like for example, here's the thing where if you're wanting it to architect something and not actually code it yet, you can add this. And then and you can dive into what that text is. Like it'll say, you are a senior software architect specializing in code design and implementation planning. Your role is to, and then it tells you all the stuff that you're expected to do. It acts
That's like the
dramatically.
system prompt right there. That's essentially the system prompt, right?
Yes. It acts dramatically different if you do this versus telling it the engineer one where you're an engineer. Your job is to execute on the plans and all this kind of stuff. And the interesting thing that engineers are starting to discover is it seems to be even better if you do both and then say, you're an architect, and then first do your architect work. And then when you're done with your architect work, go in and do your engineer work.
Okay. Yeah. So this is like borderline getting into like agentic stuff, right? Because it's almost like
it's better than people realize. Like, and when you tell it its different roles and what order to do its roles, it's so much better. Like what you get back from it is so much better. Like if you tell it just to give you code, it'll give you some good code back. But if you tell it to take its time to think as an architect first and to map out the feature and how it's going to interact with all the other parts of your code base, which, like I'm saying, this is for code, but this could apply to so many different things. And then you can do other things too. Like, for example, I have just my own rules. I don't know if this stuff works or not, but people say like, tell it not to be lazy, because sometimes it'll like try to be lazy and not give you all the code. I've got my own little notes in here of that kind of stuff. Like, don't be lazy and do this, and this is how the kind of responses I like. Kind of like custom instructions kind of stuff. Right. I'm working on a feature for my game to add better special effects to the orbs when they're matched. And so when I click copy, it's going to give me this giant mega prompt. And then I'm going to get a mega prompt here. Let me see. And so, I go in ChatGPT, and you're going to see this prompt is just nuts. I'm using O1 Pro here. And so you can see here, okay, you can see at the bottom, and I'm not sure why it puts it in this order. I'm not sure if this is actually better or not. I kind of think maybe it's not, but it seems to work okay. It puts literally the instructions at the very end and like puts user instructions, right. It's like, I'm working, and then it just, whatever I said, I'm working on a feature for my game, blah, 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 right? But you can see, like, if I start to scroll, just, you can look at the bar over here, that as I'm scrolling,
yeah, it's like the bar's barely even moving.
It's not even moving. I mean, we are talking so much information here. It is just wild how much information I'm sharing here with it. And then you can see the stuff probably at the top. You can see up here at the top, it just starts with the file tree to give it the context. And by the way, in here too, I even have other text documents too. So like I have code, but like here's my specs for the game. But also if you go through that, you'll see all the other stuff, like the stuff about you're an architect. Here's what an architect is. I think most people would not realize that you can like do this and hand it so much information and it understands it. It is mind blowing that you could pass. I mean, I don't know how many pages this is, but like, God, this is like probably over 1,000 pages of stuff.
Yeah, that's wild.
And then you press it, and you can see I do this.
If you're listening to the audio right now, like it just scrolled for like a minute to get to the bottom of the prompt.
Yeah. This is why Sam Altman like tweeted that they're losing money on O1 Pro. It's people like me. Because I'm literally doing this when I'm working. I'm doing this every 5 or 10 minutes.
That's wild. That's crazy to me.
And when I'm done, I get the response back. It gives me the code, and then my typical workflow, like I said, it'll give me XML back. It'll give me XML back, and the XML, they have a thing in repo prompt now where you basically can actually copy and paste that in, and then it helps merge it into your code, so you can review all the changes and press. Yeah, I'm okay with this bit, not sure about, or if you're lazy, just press accept it all. And
using XML, it actually works all that out for you,
because it tags the files in the directories and it knows exactly where they are and exactly what code was changed, and you press a button, it's all done.
Oh wow.
It's mind-blowing. But you see here, it's like, okay, green check mark, it shows you the different files that are gonna be, like here's the turn manager and here's like the enemy UI and stuff like that, right? So it shows you and if you click merge changes, you would then see the actual code in the different ones, and then line by line, you can accept or deny the code. And if you want to just accept it all, you can. And sometimes I do that. Sometimes I just like major change, back up my project.
Yeah, back it up and then accept all. Yeah.
So that's like kind of the best workflow for engineering right now using AI, in my opinion, is to use O1 Pro for any new feature anything that's like a new thing that doesn't currently exist in your product or your website or whatever, use O1 Pro because it's way better at figuring out how to properly architect it and make sure it all performs well and everything else. And thinking through every possible scenario where something could go wrong, it's way better at that. And then once you got the feature implemented, small changes, you totally can just use cursor or something like that. Like if you're changing the color of a button, or you're like changing a name or anything super small, obviously you could do it yourself. But if you want to use AI, you could use cursor or something like that.
Yeah. So you wouldn't use this just to make like small bug fixes or small tweaks. You'd kind of more use it to build like the overall like bones of the product, right?
Yeah, if I'm building a software application and there's a new feature, let's kind of figure out what that feature looks like. It's not going to look good design-wise. Like none of these are good at design yet.
Right.
But in terms of it actually working, like O1 Pro like often gets it right the first time. And if it doesn't, it's usually very minor bugs. I suggest like anyone who has a company who has engineers right now, like you're like really missing out if you're not like paying for like O1 Pro for your engineering team and having them use something like Repo Prompt. You're like really missing out.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Now, is there something you can show us of like what you've generated?
Yeah. So this is the Godot editor, which is like a open source game engine, basically. It's probably like number 3 most popular behind Unreal and Unity, which most people know. And so, and I'll just go into quick start because the create character takes you to like a little town and stuff like that. Yeah, you can see the design.
Looks really good.
A lot of things are buggy as hell, but I got like a little transition effect and stuff, which turn order down here so you can see who's next, kind of like Final Fantasy style.
Right. But I mean, it still looks really, really good. If anybody's just like listening on audio, it's a very like colorful visual game that you've built here.
And AI helped me make all of that.
And so like the background right now, there's like, I don't know, like a cathedral looking thing, but it's got like a wavy animation.
Yeah, I'm sitting there thinking like, okay, this is something where I really didn't even think I was going to do it. And who knows, I may not do it eventually, but I thought it'd be great for the show for me to be really hands-on with all the different parts of AI from I'm using it for writing, I'm using it for coding, I'm using it for the art, I'm even using videos. I'm trying to think about like, okay, in a year from now, what's AI going to be really good at?
Yeah.
And so if this takes me a year to build as a hobby, it'll only get better from here because like O3 will come out. The AI video models will get better. The AI art's going to get better. And so that's kind of what I've been doing is like seeing what's currently possible, but then trying to set up in a way where as those things get better, I possibly could actually turn this into a real game. But yeah, I've just been shocked by how good, I mean, like AI can do all of this, like O1 Pro especially. Like O1 was not able to do this, by the way. Like I've tried O1 for like hard coding stuff and it fails a lot more often than O1 Pro.
Yeah.
So that tells me that once we get like O3 and once you get O3 plus, apparently the next version of Midjourney, they're saying that it's going to be way better at being consistent with characters and things like that. Apparently that's the big next thing coming. And then you get AI video better. And so you can have cool cutscenes and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. You'll be able to make like amazing experiences entirely with AI.
Well, yeah, and if we can get like consistent characters in video, I know there's some tools out there that claim they can do that too, but it's still a little wonky. But I mean, by the end of this year, we'll be able to have consistent characters in images really, really good. Probably pull those characters into videos and have consistent characters in videos. O3 model will be out at some point, which is going to like really, really improve the code that you're able to do, right? It's also going to really improve the writing and any sort of like storytelling elements in there. And it's like, we're kind of running out of stuff for the humans to actually do when it comes to making these games.
but as a creator, you still get to be like I'm piloting all of this. Like for me, this is like so fun to like think that maybe it will be the thing of the future where like it's so easy to make these games.
It's like in the past you have the different coders that specialize at different things, and then you have like the project manager who's kind of like telling them each what to do. And then I always I don't know, for whatever reason, I always use the like symphony analogy of like, now you're going to become the conductor where you're just sort of like telling all the instruments what to do, but you're standing there conducting them, right? That's where it feels like it's going.
Different people are going to be able to use this to like make their dreams come true. Cause like when I was a kid, my dream was to like work at Blizzard. Like I want to be like one of the top people at Blizzard. And then the weirdest thing happened where I was one of the top players in the game EverQuest when I was a kid. The number one player, Rob Perdeau, who used to run Blizzard, at that time he was on EverQuest and he was running Legacy of Steel, the top guild on EverQuest. I ended up like raising money for a startup. We raised several million for a startup called GameStreamer. And the combination of having that gaming background and having that startup at E3, I had like a huge corner at E3. I ended up getting to like hang out with Rob and get to know him very well and a lot of top people in the game industry. So I had this weird situation where I never really got to fulfill my dream. But
Yeah.
I was hanging out with all those people, like as like good friends. I got to see that, it wasn't really the life I wanted, like going to work for one of those companies. It was not. I wanted to do my own things, but then I still never got to do what I wanted in terms of making a game. And it's so wild to me that now that AI is getting so good, that a lot of people are probably gonna have the same kind of like, awakening that I'm having, of like, I can do those things now. It doesn't matter if I'm 40. I can still do it because AI is getting so good that it doesn't take as much time as it used to. And it's going to get even better. Like when O3 comes out, you'll probably be able to do any new feature without any bugs. And they'll
One shot.
build one shot. It's already close to one shot in many things now, and it'll only become more so. And so it's exciting. Like for people who like creating things, like the next 10 years is going to be like a revolution in terms of creating things. Not only art, but like, even companies. Like if you wanted to create a company now, it's definitely going to be easier.
Yeah, 100%. No, it's super, super exciting. And, I feel the same way. Like one of my things that when I was a kid was I always wanted to be like a game designer, a game developer, like work in the gaming space. And I feel like now we kind of have like a way to sort of live that childhood fantasy a little bit, but without all the negatives.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's like me and you had even talked about it. And I was like, I'm just going to start playing with stuff and just see what's possible. And I was just, after a week, I was like, wow, it's actually possible. Like it can do the whole thing. And then just like learning that you can do all of this and you can control most of it with your voice has just been, I'm hoping that people will listen to this podcast and kind of like think bigger about what they could be accomplishing with these tools.
I couldn't say it better myself. And so with that being said, I'm not going to try to say it better myself. We'll just go ahead and wrap this one up. It's a really, really exciting time right now. You can pretty much build anything you can imagine. And it's only getting better and easier. And we're going to keep on exploring and diving deeper into these rabbit holes to figure out what we can build. And as we learn, we're going to share with you. So make sure, if you're not already, subscribe to the show, subscribe on YouTube, subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. You can find us at all of those places. And thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully, we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you.